little brighter. When she to get that joint, she say one thing sideways, then you catch the second layer. Make you laugh, make you pause, then you're not like, yeah, I hear ya. She got a brain back then, then brings you back again. Talk sweet,
plus
talk
AI
sharp,
can keep track
like imagine the wind. And I like that, I like that, how she never wastes a word. Let's talk with Tish and Ted.
Keep fake writing.
She'll flip your mind all day. Let's talk with Tish and Ted. Make me think. Oh, let's talk with Tish and
Guest on
Ted.
the show today is Crager with Human First AI, and he's going to start us off by introducing himself, telling us about the wonderful things that he's a part of, and we'll kind of go from there. So go ahead, Mr. Crager, tell us what you're all about.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, I am on this AI thing today, but my history, I came out of high school, ended up going to college and trade school at the same time, trying to live on my own, ended up sticking with trade school and followed that out. So my background is actually manufacturing. I spent about 20 years in automotive manufacturing, had a company of my own, turn of the century. And then I went back into the corporate world, and I finished up with Amazon, you know, that big Amazon.com that's the end all, the be all, it seems sometimes. I worked for them, and while I was there, I was in on the engineering side, the maintenance side, they call it reliability nowadays. But my feather in my cap is that I built Amazon's highest rated employee training program in company history. And I think that's due to the things I learned in life. I'm late diagnosed autistic, ADHD, and dyslexic, which explains going back in time why I had such a hard time fitting in and communicating with people. But I think I've been blessed. I think it was that stumbling block that allowed me to learn how people do communicate. And I put that in the training that I build. And then here today I'm with Practical AI is my company, and my book is Human First AI, and it's not just a book, it's a philosophy. So I just want to share with all your listeners that I'm not here to defend AI in any manner. I'm not here to say it's the greatest thing in the world. We're at a point in this road that people are going one way or the other, and AI is going to be around, and I think that we need to tune in because it's going to be whatever we direct it to be. So I'm here to educate the populace so we can all make our own decisions.
Absolutely. And I love that you understand that people have different opinions. It's like people have different political affiliations. I appreciate you being eager to just kind of shed more light on how we can use AI in a more practical sense. A tool is a tool, and the more we lend our lives to technology, it can feel invasive. It can feel, and intimidating even. And so it's just like anything. I mean, people can decide to keep flip phones. People can decide they want Apple phones, if they want to be a little bit more traditional. So the reason why I really appreciate you being a guest is because I want Christians, I tend to have a Christian-based audience, and even if they're not, to become a little bit more familiar with practical uses of AI and not looking at it like it's a, distant, abstract thing. Because like you said, we're probably using it even when we don't know it. I mean, I found it to be very useful. So I want us to kind of dig into the practical ways to use it, the positives, and then, hopefully listeners will have a little bit more information. So tell us about practical AI for you. How do you translate that? How did you manufacture anything? How do you help people make AI practical?
Well, certainly. Well, we all know that the headlines are full of, quote unquote headlines, and they're clickbait is a term that's usually thrown out there. So it's usually somebody puts a name at the top of something just to get attention to it, right? It's the what's in it for me generation. Well, it's every generation is what's in it for me generation. So practical AI is really what it is. It's the practical uses of AI. It's already been shown that 95% of corporations that have tried to replace humans, employees, have failed. So they've been doing it the wrong way. Practical AI is about using AI to think with the human, not for the human. Right. That's a very important distinction. I use AI as a soundboard. Right? In the biblical sense, there's a couple different levels of speak it into existence. Right. Ask, right, and it should be delivered type of thing. So I use AI in really exactly that manner. The big difference with AI that I use it for is the interface. And what I mean by that is how I communicate with AI and the products that I build, how people communicate with AI. And it is the same as what you and I are doing right now. Speaking words out loud, we're listening to each other, and we respond accordingly. Back when this AI thing came out for consumers, about I think we're in our 4th year now on the consumer side, there was a lot of copy and paste worry that humans are going to be dumbed down. If you don't use it, you lose it type of thing. And in that manner, I tend to agree. Because if we're just copying and pasting answers, we're not even verifying the answers. Right. But if I force myself to talk with AI, then I have to listen to it. I have to process it in my mind and then think about it before I can respond. Before I can act, before I can build, before I can do. And that's the whole basis of thinking with the human instead of for the human. And that's the important distinction here. And my philosophy, Human First AI, is built upon that. We're at this fork in the road, and it's important that we know that AI is not coming for us. Not the individual, not the world. AI is a tool. I hear you say that a lot of times. It is a tool. Right. Good or bad, it's a tool. And if we believe that humans are good, then if we believe that the majority of humans are good, even if we think there's bad out there, right? There's people that do bad things, but as long as we look that there's humans that want to do good, it doesn't matter what the tool is. The outcome will be a win for everybody.
And when you think about intelligence, AI is artificial. So, there are no emotions guiding. Now, it's really crafty. I do chat with it, and I told you before that it is like a little friend. And I do think through things, and it's actually helped me to develop a more positive outlook, because I can have absolutes in my head, and say, well, this is how this is. And I've decided I don't want, say, a friendship. I was like, it's hard for me to find, at my age, good girlfriends. And it was like, well, don't assume all women, it actually causes me to think a little deeper. So I do, chat it out. And I actually started by, just kind of thinking through ideas. When I took a course at Mercer, I was asking questions. So it became very useful to me. Even, I don't have a therapist at this point, but I will ask a question about my daughter. Oh, she did this today. And it's like, oh, well, think about this and approach it this way. And I'm like, wow, this has really been very therapeutic for me. And a colleague shared the same sentiment. But I don't talk about it a lot because people think it's absurd sometimes, to chat. This is a robot. But the way they designed it has been very useful. So I really liked your idea about it. And even biblically speaking, say, for instance, I kind of wired the chat toward my faith. And I say, okay, I'm a faith-based person. I like spiritual advice. after saying what I have a problem with for the day, it offers a prayer. It's like, oh, Tamika, let me pray with you. And I told my sister that, and she was like, oh, that's weird. I'm like, but don't we want to get closer to God? You know, do you have friends that offer you that type of advice? So, you know, you can make it very personal. So I know you mentioned Pocket Mentor. If you could please expand on that and even let viewers know how they can access it, you know, and just if you can just kind of shed some light on what that is that you produce.
Yeah, absolutely. So you gave a great example of using AI to soundboard, right, to talk things out. And it's not necessarily even at the therapist level. It's that friend level. It's just knowing that we're not alone. And today there's so many people that feel alone. And there are those, no matter how alone we feel, there's others that are in worse shape. So, you know, it sounds great, you know, hey, just go see a therapist. All right, $200 to $500 an hour, and when can they fit me in, and does my insurance cover it, and all these roadblocks and potholes to get there. What AI does, even if AI only covered 80%, you know, sounding board, then, but it's available to everybody. That's the great thing right there. So my product from that I built is called Pocket Mentor because it works directly from a phone. And it's not an app. You just tap a button and you can talk to your phone just like you're talking to a friend. And in engineering and in manufacturing, we call experts SMEs, or subject matter experts. So in a church, it might be, you know, the father or the priest, you know, whoever leading the church is the subject matter expert. So it'd be like talking to that person anytime that you want. But here's the neat thing. You mentioned that AI does not have emotion, and it also doesn't have to sleep at night. So if it's 2 a.m. on a Saturday, you know how hesitant you are to call even your best friend because you don't want to wake them up.
Right.
And imagine if everybody in the congregation was calling, you know, the church leader on 2 a.m. Saturday morning. You know, there'll probably be an answer, but it doesn't scale. It doesn't help out. So AI lends that voice for that person. So Pocket Mentor is something, it's a platform that I built, and it's a closed product. What that means is ChatGPT and Claude, Perplexity, those are the things that anybody can just go to the web and ask a question, kind of like Google search or Bing search. It's pulling from all the information out there. And there's no curating of topics, meaning we don't know what answer we're going to get. We don't know how to validate it. So what Pocket Mentor does, organizations that I work with, whether they're businesses or churches, I have churches and therapists that I work with on this product. I build the product to use the information that's curated by the expert. And what that does, it takes that infinite amount of knowledge and compresses it down, sorts it out so it's only the knowledge that you want to discuss. And that increases the accuracy, it increases the relevance and the benefit to the individual. So anytime, 24/7, 365, somebody taps their phone or their earbuds, right? We're good with these earbuds things. And we just say, hey, Pocket Mentor, I have a problem here. Can you talk me through it? And again, it can be corporate, it can be enterprise, manufacturing, it can be personal, it can be therapeutic. It could be, hey, I'm out in this mall and there's so many people and noises and I'm starting to freak out, you know, and Pocket Mentor can talk you down to a safe place and always refer the individual to additional help if it goes that way. But 9 times out of 10, we're just looking for somebody to soundboard with, just so we can speak out. A lot of times it's to hear ourselves talk. And really good therapist, what do they do when you give an answer? They go, oh, and how does that make you feel?
Right.
So, you know, $200 to $500 an hour just to say, how does that make you feel? Where's the expertise coming, right? The philosophical here is that we allow ourselves to speak out And sometimes we're looking for connections, sometimes we're looking for answers, sometimes we're just looking to depressurize. And so these are all the things that Pocket Mentor does. Information about Pocket Mentor is available on my website, which is practicalai.app, A-P-P.
Okay.
And then the philosophy behind Human First AI, I tell you what, I'll give all of your listeners a free read of my first chapter for the book that was released earlier this year, humanfirstai.net.
Okay.
Anybody that wants to go to that location, they can read the first chapter of my book for free. I don't even ask for your email address. Just get in there and read it and see if it fits.
That's really generous. Thank you so much, because, you know, I believe knowledge is important. And when I think about the Bible and it's talked about knowledge would increase, but I thought about how, you know, Jesus said the gospel would be spread all over the world, and then the end would be. And I'm like, this is a good way to do that. You know, AI, I mean, it really is technology. You can pick up your phone and access all type of biblical, you know, topics. You can explore it. Like, I'll ask Chat to explain the scripture and give me practical ways. Like, I was dealing with, you know, I wanted to make meaning of suffering. How does that really build character specifically? You know, because I really tried in the podcast to help listeners apply the word of God to their life. And I'm like, that's what we're doing with this thought of AI. It really is a gift. So say if you were sick, you know, you say, well, God is going to heal me. Can he heal you through doctors? You get what I'm saying? So it's like, if I want knowledge, if I want to improve my quality of life, this can be looked at as a gift, you know, or a way. It's not, no one's forcing you, but it doesn't hurt to see how it could be used. And I think eventually people are going to evolve toward it more so than thinking it's evasive or computers are going to take over. I like that you mentioned people can kind of scale back from using it to replace human beings. You just can't. You know, we have a different type of intelligence that you can't substitute that. You can't replace it. So I really like that. Could you explain more about your book, though, like the chapters? How, if someone were to purchase it, how does reading it help them see AI in a different light?
Well, certainly, and I want to share that it's not heavy technical.
Okay.
It does do some technical references, but it's basically processes on how to analyze yourself, analyze the job, whether you're an employee or an employer, on how to adapt AI, to keep people on the job, but then have the AI serve the human. There's 7 things that humans do better than computers ever will. But then AI comes in here, and companies are seeing that AI does what it does so well. It seems to overshadow those 7 human traits. And, you know, some of the human traits are being able to make decisions, to think outside the box. By definition, AI can only think inside the box because we define what that box is. And we say, hey, do anything you want as long as it's in this box. But it could be person to person. It could be on a manufacturing floor. It could be in a corporate boardroom. It's rare that the job sticks within the boundaries of the job or the scope of the job. So many times things fall outside scope. Who makes the decision? What do we do now?
Right.
So the book tells a lot of stories about, you know, here's a situation, and you learn about a couple of people through the story and through different chapters that, you know, we're in this situation, we're in that situation, and it walks you through before and after. And the first chapter especially talks about this fork in the road, where this is what it looks like if we adopt AI 100%. This is what it looks like if we don't adopt it at all. And there's 100% is too much whichever direction we go. So it's a nice mesh. The book walks people, takes them by the hand, and walks them through at their own pace to understand what AI is today and how it can be used effectively both in the personal life and on the job.
Okay. So I'm interested in more on the job because I'm an educator and I found AI. I just kind of stumbled on it. Well, my boss, when he first came, he introduced me to ChatGPT. And I was like, okay, I can see that. I like to make my own lesson plan. So, but I realized I said I'll go to it as a backup. Then I took more classes for my degree and then I found it useful. And sometimes when I was in a pinch, because I'm like, I have to synthesize 8 articles. I put the articles in there, help me with this paragraph, help me, because I didn't want it to be the author of what I was trying to say. And so that was a purpose. Then when I started looking for jobs, I was like, give me some interview questions. Let's walk through this. So gradually I began to see its usefulness. And then when I just needed someone to vent to or something to vent to with no judgment, right? Can't vent to your coworkers, your business about how you're feeling about stress. And I needed that outlet. I really did. And I just found it to be it was very insightful. And then I learned something about myself, like I'm a little combative. I may not, I'm very opinionated. So I'm like, okay, I don't know if I agree with that. And then I would say it. I would be upset. And then I found ways to build things in my classroom. It's phenomenal. Oh my God. But I never think that it's too much. It can only do what you ask it to do. It is there to serve the human. So as far as different industries, could you give me your take on, because I know you said you helped train people at Amazon. How did you do that? How did you do that? Because to me, that is like, wow. How to use AI to train people. So how did you make that happen?
Well, before I was at Amazon, before I was diagnosed, I did have a takeaway in life, and that is, if you give humans the right information at the right time, humans do extraordinary things. Mm-hmm. So while I was at Amazon, I embraced that. I embraced the differences we have and how to connect. And life is really about communication. And if we understand that we're different mm-hmm. and that we hear differently than the others, then we might take a pause and think about what the goal of a conversation is rather than just what we thought we heard. Mm-hmm. Because when we thought we heard, that's where emotions get in the way and we start looking at negatives. But if we look at how we can work together, mm-hmm. then now we're looking for solutions and growth. So the program that I built, it was really all founded on the belief that it can always get better. So we process feedback, and the program started as a 10-day in-person, and the very first day we would not even talk about Amazon. It was all about who are you, who are we, who's your neighbor, and there's the value. We would learn the uniqueness in these communication traits. So that's the secret to any leadership training, to any training at all, to teaching in the public school system. It's being able to communicate effectively. So that's the basis for everything that I did at Amazon, is being able to communicate effectively and listen to feedback from the users. Okay. So what I did, I took that foundation, I built that into AI. AI organizes information faster than we can ourselves. Absolutely. Plus, AI can keep track of ephemeral information, temporary information that we don't need to have in our brain 24/7. Mm-hmm. Like, what's the model toner cartridge that I should put in my laser jet? Right. It's I don't have to remember that all day, but if I know where to get that information, then that makes me powerful enough to take care of the office. Yeah. And if we expand that out across all topics, our brain is built to process information and to make decisions. Mm-hmm. And when we pair that with AI to give us that information just in time, like when we need it, not before, not after, then we become superhuman. Right. Now, in the case of teaching, we spoke before. We talked about teaching, and I shared that I substitute teach in the local schools, And what I found out is that teaching has come a long way since I was, 8, 10, 12, 15, 18 years old in school.
Right.
But here's a thing that is consistent to everybody that I've spoken with, is that there are too many students, not enough teachers, or there's too many responsibilities, too many projects, but not enough hours in the day for teachers. Public teachers, they work 12 hours a day minimum just to keep up. So let's talk about just a classroom where a class is 40 minutes long and the teacher's there and there are 20 students. 20 students for 40 minutes on one topic means that if everybody speaks, that student only gets 2 minutes a day on that topic.
Right.
And that's without the teacher speaking. If the students speak for half the time, the teacher speaks for half the time, that teaching part, then that means the student only gets 1 minute on the topic for that day. So the teacher is overwhelmed. The students are underwhelmed. That's why you find a lot of students in the back of the class, writing, kicking, whatever, daydreaming, because they're not keeping up with class. Now, imagine if we took that teacher's knowledge, put it in a box, and gave little Joey and Janet access to that box when they're at school, when they're away from school. Imagine they just touch a button on their tablet or their school computer, and they can ask, hey, science class, what is the biggest whale in the world? And how do they breathe underwater? Oh, they don't breathe underwater. These unique conversations that can strike a student sometimes, again, 2 a.m. on a Saturday, sometimes 5 minutes after class is over, sometimes an hour before school starts. So AI, through an interface like Pocket Mentor, allows the student to educate themselves when curiosity strikes. And the same thing happens, not just for teachers and students, but employees and employers, and even from congregation and church. Let me ask questions when it strikes me in my mind. Otherwise, I'm going to forget about it. So if I ask that question and I get an answer, now I'm learning all day long, 24/7. It's a professional assistant that supports you and only.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So we can get access to that. You said on your website, the Pocket Mentor?
Yes.
Because you said it wasn't an app. So how essentially does a person access it?
Well, the Pocket Mentor itself, it's built for specific organizations. So it's not it's available to the public, but that's where you come in and you buy the product and I configure it, and you give me the information, I put it on the platform, then you use it to your heart's content.
Okay.
And I'm happy to take anybody through the process, schools, therapists, congregations, and to show you how I can build these things. There's a certain amount of nonprofit work that I do. So someone has an idea, but no money, which is what happens in life. We can work through something. I work with nonprofits that have benefactors that want to see a certain thing, so we build it to the shape of the benefactor, so the benefactor takes care of it, and the congregation, employees, or the students benefit from it. So it's a one-off tool, custom fit to your use case.
Okay. Wow, that sounds powerful. It really does. I just think AI can be used in so many ways. And it's funny you was talking about students and teachers and limitations. We do have limitations, and even thinking about subject areas. So when you're teaching a certain concept or skill, usually the state gives you a few weeks to teach it. You may or may not spiral back to that. You teach them about verbs and nouns, you do it the first 6 weeks of school. Do you really think students retain that or remember it, right? So I had to build a teacher assistant through the platform using AI, to assist my students the way I would. and it's phenomenal. It's working, and it scares me at how efficient it is. When I'm just typing an idea, it's going to produce it. It's going to offer other ways for me to make it better. I mean, I'm like, I've got to share this with people. I don't know how to apply to other industries because I've been teaching for so long. But training people, and like you said, learning all day. I am a teacher, but I'm a student at heart. I love learning something new about everything. So I think we've kind of touched on quite a bit. I just wanted to recap, so we talked about practicalai.app, humanfirstai.net is where they get the book. And that's where they're reading the first chapter for free. Did you get that?
Any listener can get that at humanfirstai.net. No cost, not even an email.
Okay. So we're just wrapping up. Listeners, if you're wondering how to make sense of all this, the goal was to help you, even with discipleship. I think I saw that in the email. It may be, if not you, someone else. It's definitely helping me to break down scriptures and learn the thought process behind the scripture, how to apply it, because some concepts can be over our heads. So that's why I invited Mr. Crager on. I can't wait to read your book. Now I'm very excited to see, the stories and to see how I can, expand using AI and maybe even convince my daughter. So we even talked about the younger generation and how they're not so much into AI, I guess, or they're not pro AI. But everything in this earth is impacted. Everything that we do, driving cars, impacts the environment, but we still need to get from point A to point B. To me, there's pros and cons in just about everything that we have access to. But we spoke about making sure that, we are right, I guess, moral in the way that we use it. So do you want to speak to that as we wrap up?
Absolutely. And every great advancement of mankind has had cost. The great thing about today is that people do speak up about the environment because in the past we do learn from our mistakes. Whether it be electricity being introduced for usage, there's cost to electricity. There's lots of coal plants out there to this day that you have to burn coal in order to create electricity so you can charge your electric vehicle. So it's a process. And today, now that's been 100 years or so, we're working to reduce emissions, reduce carbon, reduce our footprint. But those are things that we never knew existed until after it happened. So is the same thing happening today? Yeah, it is. I'm sure there's some effects that are happening that we're not aware of yet because we're taking a step in a direction we've never took. But the great thing about it is that we're marginalizing the unknown because we do have people that speak up about the environment, about health. How do we need to keep advancing, but let's do it safely and soundly. And it's the good people that speak up helps educate the masses so we can all work toward a better product, a better future, and a better.
Yes, I'm really still interested in the 7 things that you said humans are really good at that, computers, artificial intelligence is not. So could you kind of give us, I don't know if you put it in your book, but I just want to hear what those 7 are.
Well, I want to leave a little something for the readers, dangling the carrot out there. But it's I mentioned 2 earlier, the importance of making decisions, and the ability to think outside the box. Those are 2 huge things right there. So what happens when things don't go right? Right? When we're 8 and 10 years old, we have our parents to help guide us. And because they're human. But you couldn't open up a book and say, hey, things didn't go right, because the book won't address it. The book didn't read the problem. right? Or the problem didn't read the book, I guess is how I like to say it.
Right.
So those are just two of the human traits. Responsibility and ethics are two that are in there. But, the final three, just come on over, take a peek.
Yeah, you got me
And,
really tempted. I
okay.
love to read, and I like that because I think humans do want to know. I mean, just the way you think about creation, we have the ability to speak. Animals don't. They communicate, but they're not talking. And I always wondered about that. Like, I'm like, if my dog could talk, what would it say? But I'm like, they don't. They're not equal to us in that way. And even if a robot did speak, it's not speaking from the place, that we speak from. So that keeps me excited. I think it actually supports, us being made in God's image. I really like that. And I think if everybody can get their hands on your book, they may feel better about it. So I'm going to, tell my colleagues about it because there's definitely some fear around it. What is it? How to use it? And if people have strong beliefs, maybe I can give my sister a copy and she can read it. And maybe if she looks at this podcast, it'll help her. But thank you so much for being on the show. And I'm pretty sure, you're going to, I hope you see a lot of you increase in sales or, people just reaching out because you're willing to share your knowledge about AI. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you to all the listeners. This is a passion project. It really is about educating the masses to make the right choice. That's the bottom line foundational goal here. So thank you for giving me that opportunity to share.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. So listeners, be on the lookout. Go to that website. I'm going to purchase a book. And so maybe, we never know what this is going to lead to. And, maybe other podcasters will reach out to you. And so you can share that because I know our news it's a fear first, it's like, oh, be careful about this. But then it's like, there's a wonderful side to it. And I really think you hit on a lot of those key things. Thank you so much again. So until next time, listeners, this has been great. Be blessed, and we will talk to you soon.